Votes have been counted, results are in. Now coalition talks take center stage as parties negotiate who will govern the 66 hung municipalities. I'm joined now in studio by representatives of New Kids on the Block who did particularly well compared to other parties. I'm joined by Kenny Kunene, who is the Deputy President of the Patriotic Alliance, and we're also joined by Lerato Ngobeni from Action SA, the national spokesperson of that party. To you both, thank you very much for honoring us with your presence. Once again, can I start with you, Ms. Ngobeni, and ask you the question about what the IFP stance is in KZN? They have just come out with what I consider to be a bombshell. They're not willing to work with the ANC. In fact, in eThekwini, you've got 4 seats there that you have won coming out of this election. What does that decision by the IFP do in your considered view as Action SA?
Look, I think we're quite pleased. I think, we feel quite vindicated that our stance was viewed as quite controversial when we declared, in fact, when Mashaba said, we will not work with the ANC under any circumstances. And then we were told that, don't sideline people. This is not the way to go. And so to see parties coming out now saying they're not willing to work with the ANC is quite refreshing, actually. It means that our politics are going forward. It means that the people on the ground can finally get the services that they require. We want to squeeze the ANC. We want them to feel the pinch. The people of South Africa have felt the pinch for very, very long. 27 years is a long time. There are people who were babies and toddlers and infants when the ANC took over. And the fact that we are sitting with the kind of scenario that we have currently in the country is quite disappointing. Sure. So for us, we welcome it. We're quite happy.
Mr. Kunene, you may not necessarily have fared all that well in KZN, but nonetheless, that province is probably going to be a big talking point. Your reaction to the stance taken by the IFP this afternoon?
I think it caught me by surprise, quite frankly, because the IFP has never really had such a stance. It worked with the ANC in the city of Joburg. It worked with the ANC in Ekurhuleni. So, yeah, we are indeed surprised that they have taken that stance. But obviously, it is their politics, it is their reasons.
Sure. Let me come back to you, Ms. Ngobeni. And whilst on the issue of coalition talks, your party commissioned an internal poll.
Indeed.
And this was to find out who should Action SA partner with, particularly in cities like Johannesburg, where you've done phenomenally well. Let me ask the question about what that poll is telling you so far. Have you concluded, or is it still ongoing, and what is the decision going to be?
So the poll is still ongoing. We will close it by end of day today. In fact, we are having a Senate meeting post the close, so we can have a conversation around what the poll has revealed. It is quite astonishing that South Africans, by the time we opened the poll, I think we opened it on Thursday, by, what's today? I don't even know. We've got so many days to go. I think by Friday, or even late yesterday, we were over 5,000 respondents. Now we've got even more because...
And sorry to cut in. You've put this question to people out in the various municipalities where you contested.
Residents all over, so where we've contested mostly, because that's where we can participate. But it's open to all South Africans because, we have requests from Limpopo. Just now as I came in here, I had, calls from Limpopo, people saying, what do you want us to do? This is what we think you should do in terms of coalitions, because they want us to participate in their provinces. And so the poll will tell us a couple of things. It will tell us whether we are on the right track around, look, people voted for us because we already said we're not going to participate with the African National Congress. During the People's Dialogue, that was the stance of the people who participated in the People's Dialogue. So it's not Mashaba's sentiment to say, I hate the ANC. It is the people on the ground who said, whatever happens, do not collaborate with the African National Congress.
So, but what are people saying so far, particularly with regards to your stance of not wanting to work with the ANC?
Look, No, the people are happy with that.
Okay.
So we do not have to relent on that. In fact, we're not going to relent on that. People voted for us based on the fact that we would not work with the ANC.
So that's a decision made?
So that's a decision made. That's a decision made. The poll is going to determine who else, whether it's going to be the PA, whether it's going to be IFP, whether it's going to be EFF or anyone else, but not the ANC. Definitely.
Mr. Kunene, your party showing very strongly in Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni. In fact, you have done so well that you've actually tipped off the IFP. You're showing much stronger than the IFP in both these municipalities. What are you attributing that success to?
We are attributing it to hard work. The message that we carried in the townships, in the areas where we were contesting, and the interventions that we made in terms of assistance that we did to the communities. There are those things that they highlighted as priorities, immediate things that they just wanted us to help them with or to fix. And we decided that we will do that. But I think also our message, the people received our message very well.
Remind the people what your message was.
Our message was we have to bring back God back to schools. Our message was fighting crime is a necessity. And when we say crime, we include corruption in the municipalities, creation of jobs, starting from zero, wiping off the municipal debt. Because when the national government bailed out businesses, they never bailed out the citizens that voted them in power. So we want to bail out citizens during this time of COVID by wiping off their municipal debt. And then we started zero. And obviously the issue of illegal immigrants, they have to go home. But the fact that they're illegal means that they have broken the law. They are not supposed to be here, so they have to go back home.
We're going to revisit that point. We did talk about it just before the election.
Yes.
And it's about the process or how you go about conducting this. But I want to talk about the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro.
Yes.
You haven't done as well as I think you would have anticipated. I think you got 1 or 2 seats, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 2 seats. Why that kind of showing, you think?
Look,
particularly in areas like the northern areas, for example. That's where you campaigned very strongly.
I think the DA did better than us in the northern areas. And despite not having as many seats, it is an improvement because we have added a seat from 1 seat that we had. So it might not be as many as in Johannesburg, but we still grew in Nelson Mandela Bay. And obviously, it's all about going back to the drawing board and saying, where did we fail and how do we then make sure that in the next elections in 2024, we perform better, not only in Nelson Mandela Bay, but in the whole of the Eastern Cape.
All right. To both of you, let's pause there for a moment. When we return, we are going to focus the attention on the non-negotiables when it comes to these coalition governments. If indeed we are going to see coalition governments being formed, I suspect that we are going to have to. Parties are going to have to work together. We're going to start from that point. You're watching Politics Unscripted. You're watching Politics Unscripted. The segment of the show is the Talking Point, and we are in conversation with Kenny Kunene. He's the Deputy President of the Patriotic Alliance. We're also talking to Lerato Ngobeni, who is from Action SA, National Spokesperson there. Let me pick up with you, Lerato. Your leader, Herman Mashaba, campaigned, particularly in Johannesburg, for the position of mayor. Is that going to be a condition with whomever you choose to negotiate with when it comes to the city of Johannesburg? Or is he willing to relinquish the mayoral chain?
Well, I can tell you that a lot of the polling is telling us that that should be a non-negotiable, that, you know, he should become mayor. However, as I said, Senate is meeting tonight. We will determine that.
Yeah.
Our non-negotiables, there's only 4 of them. Barring Mashaba becoming mayor.
Okay.
I think we've since moved on. You know, 2024 is coming. This is not the end. So the non-negotiables are 4. 1, we want to partner with organizations that have a zero tolerance on corruption.
Right.
And this is one of the reasons why we're not willing to work with the ANC, because we want there to be an investigation dating all the way back to 2016 of all corrupt acts since then. So, you know, the chances that, you know, people in the ANC will be compromised are pretty high. So that's just going to put us in a compromised position, so we do not want to be part of that. Secondly, transparency is a big issue, which is why we ran the poll so that South Africans can be part of it, so that it's not, you know, South Africans are tired of the smoke-filled Saxon world agreements that are agreed upon without their involvement. So yeah, that's number 2. Thirdly, we want to go into a coalition with people who are prepared to set on the table what their service delivery agenda is. There's no point in going into agreement and then deciding on the agenda post that conversation.
So I take it you're talking about performance agreements.
Absolutely. And then lastly, we want an organization that is prepared to promote pro-poor and pro-business stances, because the two, we believe, are mutually interdependent and not mutually exclusive. Yeah. And so those are the 4 principles that's the framework, really, of us going into these coalition discussions.
Mr. Kunene, the PA is non-negotiables when
I
it
have
comes
to
to coalition government?
I have to register that we will go into a coalition with anyone, including Action SA. We don't have preferences. We will sit around the table, and precisely because in as far as we are concerned, the DA and the ANC, who are the main parties that you have to decide which one do you go with at the moment in terms of the numbers. Both of them have done nothing for our communities. We look at the ANC nationally, but we look at the DA in the Western Cape. Kaelisha, Kukuletu, Langa, and many other areas are still the same. They look the same as Alex, as Soweto. So the DA has failed our people there. So our view is both the ANC and the DA are the same. Yeah. So there is no better devil. However, we are saying we will go into a coalition with those that understand our non-negotiables. Those who understand that crime and corruption is a priority. We have to fight crime at all costs. And service delivery. Before we can even discuss how are we implementing service delivery programs, we must then say, what are you bringing on the table for our people? What are we bringing? And let's agree with time frames. What are we doing in the first 6 months? What are we doing in the first financial year, second financial year, and so on? The issue of illegal immigrants is a non-negotiable. Our people don't have jobs due to these illegal immigrants. They have hijacked buildings and houses that must be owned by our people. There's a Nigerian that owns over 1,000 RDP houses in Gauteng, and one that owns over 1,700 RDP houses in Cape Town. Yeah. And we are saying we need to deal with these issues, because you can't deal with crime and leave the issue of illegal immigration out of it. Yeah. Because the police cannot deal with crime effectively, because when they get fingerprints at the scene of crime, when they run them, they are not accounted for. So there is so much crime that is happening because of illegal immigrants.
Before you move on from this point, Mr. Kunene, there is a hashtag, I'm not sure if you're aware.
Yes.
There's a hashtag right now that is trending, and it's hashtag no to Zim work permits. And one of the people that have already tweeted around this is they're saying South Africa has the highest unemployment rate. Zimbabwe, with a dead economy, along with many other similar African countries in that regard, have okay unemployment rates because all their unemployed come mess up our unemployment statistics here. Then, yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end it before it becomes nasty. But there is that hashtag that is already trending on the back of these local elections. That question, by the way, is going to come to you, Lerato, because that's the same issue that you campaigned on. But it's the how that you are going to go about doing this. The how of how you're going to rid South Africa of illegal immigrants. How?
Number one, in the cities, let's take the city of Joburg as an example. You've got Metro Corps. Metro Corps are under a local municipality under the city of Joburg. So you then invite Home Affairs to come to bring their machines, and then you go to areas where you know that they are infested with illegal immigrants. And you bring the police on board, and you are then going to check people's papers. If the papers are not correct, if the papers are illegal, if the person does not have papers, they get into the van. That is how you do it. And then, obviously, you involve National Home Affairs Department to make sure that they now process the deportation of these people. We need to put pressure on national government to assist us at local government, because illegal immigration affect our people at local government before we even go to national.
Ms. Ngobeni, let's come to you on this very point, and I'm going to ask if we can also be just sensitive in the language we use, because this is one sensitive area.
It's extremely sensitive,
time and again will more than likely spark xenophobic attacks in our country. But your party's stance on illegal immigrants, the PA is very clear. In fact, I think the message of your president was that Nigerians need to start packing very soon. I think it was on the back of the election result. That kind of messaging, is that helpful? How should we go about this the right way?
You know, ours is a humanitarian stance. It's so lovely to see the PA and them joining us on this matter. I remember when Mashaba announced it, I think it was late 2016, that we need to deal with illegal immigration issues in South Africa, particularly in the city of Joburg when he was mayor at that time. Here's the thing. We are very concerned about the fact that this illegality also disparages particularly women who may be exploited at their workplaces. I mean, we've seen videos doing the rounds of women being shambocked with hose pipes, you know, for sex work. And this is crazy in the city of Johannesburg. And so for us, it's saying that this is a crisis. If we do not know where people are based and where people are and where people are working, we can't protect them if their employers are abusing them in any way. If they are, you know, we don't know where they're sleeping, for example. And so we need to work together with their countries as well, because one of the things we say is that if we allow the numbers to explode in the way that they are exploding, it means that the countries from where they come are outsourcing their problems to us. So we need to have intergovernmental relations that are proper, that are sound with their parent countries so that they can begin to fix the issues at home. Because the reality is we are also going to buckle. And the problem is South Africans would have to be faced with the question, where are they going to go? Because if the whole of the continent begins to be dysfunctional as we have seen it, it means that, you know, should South Africa fail in and of itself, you know, South Africans have no options. I also want to go and live in Nigeria, but I can't. Or I want to go to live in Malawi, but I can't.
Why not?
Because I want the quality of life that I have in South Africa. And so this is not a xenophobic rhetoric, as people have dubbed it. It really isn't. It's just about restoring the rule of law in South Africa and ensuring that those people who do need refugee status, asylum, for whatever reason, can be processed and can have a place in South Africa.
Mr. Kunene, I don't see how you can go about implementing this policy of the PA of ridding South Africa of illegal immigrants without the involvement of national government. You are going to have to work with the national government.
Yeah.
Are there any talks at the moment?
That is why it's a non-negotiable. If you are going to go into a coalition with us, we need to talk about the issue of illegal immigration. You see, there was a conference 4 weeks ago where Zimbabwe decided that they are going to put stringent measures around their borders to fight illegal immigration. Now, Zimbabwe is saying people from Malawi and DRC are coming in Zimbabwe, stay in Zimbabwe, and when they have done crime, they run to South Africa. They want to keep that. Zimbabwe government and pastors wrote a letter to government to bar Somizi Mhlongo from entering Zimbabwe because of his sexuality. Now, if government can implement its policy on sexuality, which is not a crime to be homosexual,
Sure.
and they decide that they're going to make sure that Zimbabweans are saying this person must come, their government and pastors are saying this man is not coming. So why should we be apologetic about saying we want to be safe, we want to account for each and every person in this country? We cannot be apologetic, and it's not just in the continent. There are Serbians here, there are Chinese here. When you look at the wholesalers behind Jumbo in Crown Mines, there are flats that have been built there where illegal Chinese are staying. And you ask yourself, who rezoned that area, which is not a residential area? That is a business area. Who rezoned it to be a residential area for Chinese to bring illegal immigrants here and keep them there? We are starting there. When we get in the city of Joburg, that's where we are starting. And they are employing them as cheap laborers. I have been there, and I've seen what is happening there. So I'm saying, Xolani, as PA, we are very much unapologetic. That's why the emphasis has been on illegal immigrants.
All right. Let's pause there for a moment. I know that you want to weigh in on this. I have to take a break. When we return, you're going to pick up on that very point. And as we go to the break, by the way, you will know that political parties at this point are discussing the coalition government, some of them holding their national meetings. The visuals you're seeing on your screen right now, that's the ANC special NEC meeting, and I see in picture there, that's our recent Minister of Health, Dr. Xoli Mngambi. It looks like he is in attendance. These are just the pictures that we are bringing to you. The ANC holding a special NEC meeting, and that announcement being made today by the African National Congress as to what it is that their decision is going to be when it comes to these hung municipalities. Which parties are they going to be going into bed with, and what happens with those that have already rejected the African National Congress? Segment of the show is the talking point, and as we are talking, a statement coming in from Eskom saying that load shedding is being extended from today, which is a Sunday, all the way up until next week, Saturday. It's probably one of the points that we're going to touch on with my guests. Kenny Kunene is the Deputy President of the Patriotic Alliance, and Lerato Ngobeni, Action SA National Spokesperson. Lerato, let's come to you. You wanted to weigh in on the point that was being made by Kenny Kunene, which I have to admit, by the way, that, you know, much of the focus many times is on fellow immigrants who come from the continent. There are those who don't come from the continent of Africa, and they are here illegally.
So when we speak, and I agree with the PA and Kenny on this one, illegal immigrants is not qualified. It includes all illegal persons who are residing in our country without papers and without due reason why they need to be here. So it doesn't matter where they come from. That's very, very clear. We are clear on that because xenophobia is geared towards people coming from the continent of Africa. And so it creates this bubble and this misnomer that we have a hatred towards people of African descent. We do not. That's number one.
It's not people of African descent who come here and commit crime.
No.
I think of Radovan Krecher.
Radovan Krecher, for example. Yeah, so here's what I wanted to say before we went on break, just to qualify this thing, was to say our anger is not at the people who are here illegally. Our anger is at Home Affairs and at the national government for not having done what is necessary to ensure that we manage this crisis. So our anger is not at the people, because if you have a gap, it's human nature. If you see a gap, you're going to take it in anything. And people have seen that our borders are porous. I think this was discussed moons ago. I think from early 2000s when we were speaking about porous borders. And so that needs to be addressed. And the national government needs to have a strategy that can be plausible for us to deal with it. It is a sore point. We understand, and we fully understand how, this is a crisis. I mean, we have to be responsible as politicians and political parties with our utterances, because our people take it in one way, and then you flare up. And that's what we want to manage. And so that is why we're taking a more humanitarian approach towards the crisis, and why we have to have much more stronger and what can I say, more focused intergovernmental discussions with the countries, the parent countries of the nationals who are here.
Mr. Kunene, I want to move on from the issue of illegal immigrants and talk about the breaking news strap on the side of the screen right now, in the middle of this conversation. Load shedding. It is an understatement to say it is South Africans' pet hate.
Yeah.
Could that be a negotiating matter that is put on the table by political parties? If so, to what end? Because I'm trying to understand how much you can try and strong arm the government, the national government, led by the ANC, into doing something about this, because it does appear that they themselves have tended to blame the people who work at Eskom. The national chairperson of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, who doubles up, by the way, as energy minister, was saying Eskom had become an opposition to the ANC in the lead-up, just days before the November 1 date.
Xoli, it's incompetency. And the ANC, because of cadre deployment and also business connection deployment, has brought us to this. We have a guy there that we are told that is going to turn things around. He has not. Nothing is being done. So perhaps there is a bigger picture behind this thing of load shedding. Perhaps we are being prepared for Eskom to be sold, just like they did with SAA, where they pushed their narrative that SAA was dysfunctional, whereas there was a counter-narrative that was saying, no, SAA can be profitable, but you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those were ignored. So maybe we are being prepared for the sale of Eskom, and I think that's something that, as South Africans, we have to say no to. But it shows how the government of the ANC itself is incompetent. It shows how the ANC does not understand governance. The person that is there was appointed by the minister. The minister who sits in the NEC of the ANC, where the national chairperson sits. So these complaints by the ruling party about officials at state-owned entities, it shows that they have run out of ideas. It shows that they have given up. Because if I am your boss, and instead of telling you to correct what we have agreed on, your performance, I then say you are against me politically. It shows that there's no government in the ANC.
I can't help, though, Mr. Kunene, but remember, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, because it's a while back that these reports came out, that at some point either yourself or the president of your party were part of some deal with the, if I could call it, the ill-fated Russian deal. You'll correct me if I'm wrong here. What was that all about? Remind us, because yes, you may sit on the opposite side today and condemn, but at one point you were very part and parcel of those, if we could call it, factions within the ANC that were jostling around this issue of energy insecurity in our country.
Well, you must remember that we are business people. We did not come into politics growing in through political positions. The Sunday Times has written many lies about us. They continue to do so. They are the ones that broke that story. They have apologized to so many people. We didn't even bother to follow up. We have been to Russia.
So no apology was written or issued to you?
No apology, and if you go ask them, the paperwork and documents
did you ask
that
for
prove. No, why should we? We know that they write lies about us. We know that they had an agenda against us. We go to Russia, we go to China, we go to different countries.
But that's why the press ombuds are there, so that if a story is wrong, right now you're casting aspersions on a national newspaper.
Yes.
And you have not even bothered to challenge it, just going through the very codes or the very regulations that govern how we as media work. So it can't be fair of you to condemn them and rubbish them whilst they're not here to respond to themselves or for themselves when you yourself have actually not taken it up.
But you're asking me about the story that they wrote.
Yes.
So I have to respond to the story that they wrote.
Fair enough.
And they wrote the story which were lies. I went to Russia
what was the story?
With Caitlin McKenzie, and we went to talk business. And I think this platform is not for me now to justify what business am I talking with the Russians or the Chinese or the Americans or the Swedes. I think here we are here to talk about what are we giving to our people, what are we going to deliver, how are we going to formulate our coalitions.
That's fine.
So I don't want us to waste time on the lies of the Sunday Times.
Okay, but where did the deal end up?
What deal?
Was there ever a deal?
Spoke about a 5 billion deal. Any deal will have paperwork trail. Any deal will have money trail. Yes. Where is the deal?
But you went.
Perhaps you must ask that question to the Sunday Times.
You are here. I'm asking the very person who was part of the trip.
It was a private deal that we went to do. It was a private business. I cannot come here and talk about my businesses. I am here talking about what are we doing as political parties. And I'm saying to you, what the Sunday Times wrote was a lie. And I have said it before, the president was asked the same question. And he said it was a lie. The Sunday Times always write lies that they never backed up. They said Zuma has got a house in Dubai. It's very easy for you, Xoli, to go to Dubai, get the address, go to Dubai, go see the house. It's very easy for the Sunday Times to go to the Russians to say, where's the documents? They didn't even give us the right of reply. They didn't even come to us and say, we hear that you have done a deal of 5 billion. Where are the documents?
But in fairness,
it was a lie.
In fairness, they are not here to defend themselves and what you say are the lies that they write
asked about their story.
I asked about your trip, and you say that you're not here to discuss your business matters.
That is their
story. Be fair on them, because as much as you're not willing to tell us what became of that trip.
But that is their story.
Did anything amount of that trip?
What trip?
The trip that you went to on this
That's
very
our
issue.
private business.
Lerato, let's come to you. The issue of energy insecurity in the country. Look, is that something that could potentially become a matter of discussion during these coalition talks?
Definitely. I think we've spoken about a service delivery agenda, and that's definitely part of that agenda. I mean, we've gone to Soweto and spoken about the Soweto debt to say that, you know, Sowetans were used as voting fodder. They didn't just happen to not pay. They were allowed not to pay. And so our stance is, one, this is where you see that monopolies are dangerous, right? So we've got Eskom as a monopoly, and they are just yanking our chain. We need to open up the space and have independent power suppliers come through and supply electricity for our people. Number one, when we went to Soweto, for example, we're saying, and I think we're agreeing on the scrapping the debt. It's not their fault. If, in fact, the government has let them, you know, bridge, you bridge forever. I mean, the grid should tell you that this person is not buying electricity, is not paying, so where are they getting their electricity from?
Yeah.
So for us is to say, okay, we need those people who can pay to pay, and we need to be able to monitor and the veracity of how we are monitoring the indigent register, which is not being looked after. So you've got people who are receiving indigent benefits, but who shouldn't, actually, who should be paying. And so we need to take the residents along to let them understand that we cannot, whatever that is happening now is unsustainable. And so we sincerely need a very honest conversation as South Africans, as the residents of Johannesburg, to say that if we do not fix this problem, then we can't continue to complain. In the same way as illegal connections that are coming up, and this is the problem, because if you see, for example, in like Ivory Park, on the other side, you've got normal houses, you've got regular homes, and then they will tell you that our electricity is being breached, and we've seen this in real life with wire. And they say, no, the municipality will come and disconnect what we've done. As soon as they leave, we will reconnect. And so that kind of illegality cannot be continued to happen. Yeah. And so Eskom is not making it easy for residents to function.
I think there's a deliberate agenda driven perhaps by ANC and business to collapse Eskom so that they can sell it. Eskom can be fixed. And this thing of bringing private players in a space where national and entities can actually give a service to our people, it has to come to a stop. When you look at the meters, there's a case now in Bichu or somewhere in the Western Cape where it was discovered that when a person buys electricity, as an example, for 30 rand, 22 rand, or 20 rand goes to the municipality, and then 7 rand goes to the service provider that is supplying and maintaining the meter. So a person gets electricity of 3 rand when they've bought electricity of 30 rand. So these are some of the things that are happening when you bring the private sector to come between the public and government. And that is why, as PA, we are saying there are things that need to be done by government. Energy, water, these are the responsibilities of government to give to our people at a very low rate. In fact, no unemployed person, no one who stays in the disadvantaged areas must pay for water.
All right. Let's pause there for a moment, and when we return, we are going to ask the questions. Yes, elections may have come and gone, but the whole issue of municipalities is not concluded yet because they are hung municipalities. And so with that, does that also then impact on what we have seen, which is political killings? Should we automatically assume that the violence that we saw accompanying the lead up to these elections is also going to subside? All right, let's see quickly if we can take you to that ANC special conference or special NEC meeting. The Secretary General of the ANC, the acting Secretary General of the ANC, Jesse Duarte, about to brief. Let's listen.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all of us. We're still in the process of discussing. Obviously, there's still a long list of people who want to talk. But the direction in which the discussion is taking is that the negotiating team of the ANC is being given a mandate to talk to any political party that will talk to us, so that we open the door. So we open the door to talk to anyone who will talk to us in the concept of trying to form partnerships or formal coalitions if we need to. And we gave a report to the NEC of who we had discussed with thus far, but we also need to indicate that talks are still in the making. We've made no arrangement, no agreement with anyone, except those parties who have agreed that they will work with the ANC throughout the country wherever they have a seat. We also don't think we should make announcements about them until there's something much more formal. So that's where we are right now. We haven't discussed any other matter that we can report to you. That's exactly where we are for the moment. We received a preliminary briefing on the outcomes of the elections, and we've decided that we will have a fuller meeting to do a more political analysis of what the outcomes mean to the ANC. So I'd like to hand over to Comrade Jeff, who's in the negotiating team.
Thanks, Comrade DSG. I think briefly, just to highlight the fact that our approach to coalition as the ANC is informed about our desire to make sure that services are being delivered to our communities, and that we need to take that as of paramount importance. We're also looking at the landscape in South Africa, take into account how the population dynamics are. Our analysis indicates that the municipalities that we call the metros, there are about 22.1 million South Africans who live there. And the intermediate city municipalities, there were 13 million, and the rest of the B municipalities, about 19 million. But when you look at the GDP, the metros constitute about 2.2 trillion rand, and the intermediate city municipalities about 971 billion rand, and the rest of the B municipalities about 771. So that shows that the centers of economic power are in those metros. So it is of importance as the ANC, as we get into these negotiations with other political parties and other organizations, we take that into account. So our approach is that of a case-by-case assessment, bearing in mind what is in the best interest of our communities. We need to deliver services. We need to make sure that we assist local government, even using other spheres of government like the national and provincial governments, because we are one country. So we're very optimistic that as we are entering into this phase, as the DSG has said, South Africans must believe that we want to have a good deal for our people, not for the ANC, but for the betterment of the various communities.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, DSG and
But tomorrow we are doing this.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So today we're not going to really be going into questions because we've got a briefing with the president where he will be thanking our volunteers and talking to yourselves as well.
Is it to editors or to us, rank and file?
It's rank and file.
Yeah.
Depending who they say. Okay. Thank you very much. All right.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 2.
Tomorrow at 2.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great afternoon. Okay.
All right, so that's an impromptu media briefing on the sidelines of the ANC special NEC meeting. And as is usual with these meetings, there is that photo op, which we were able to see just a bit of it. And then, of course, following that was this impromptu briefing. So just a quick caption of what I think Jeff Radebe said. That's the ANC's head of policy. And he's the man, we understand, who is leading the charge when it comes to these coalition talks. He says that the desire is to ensure that services are delivered to the people. That seems to be the mantra of the ANC when it comes to entering these coalition talks. Perhaps at this time, it's worth a reminder that the leaders of the very two people that we have sitting here, Action SA and Patriotic Alliance, they also had something to say about the issue of coalition governments and what their party's positions are. Let's have a listen first to Herman Mashaba and his party's position on coalitions.
To talk to us around coalition, you must understand that social justice is one of the non-negotiable part of Action SA. We are going to commit to serve all communities. When you're in government, you just don't only serve your constituency. You've got to serve all the communities. So anyone who wants to talk to us, we are happy to talk. Otherwise, if you feel you want the mayors of grass cutting in Sandton, we are not going to be that political party to really engage to it. So in the event we don't really obviously go into government, because we are not going to do it at all costs. We will do it where our mandate is going to be to serve society, not to serve political agendas and political parties. We will only enter into a coalition if obviously the idea is to serve societies and serve everyone.
Nobody saw us coming, or nobody wanted to see us coming, let me rather put it that way. Nobody wanted to see us coming, but the fact remains is that, particularly in the Western Cape, the very few municipalities will be able to form a government without us there. That's a fact. In the city of Joburg, that's another fact. In Ekurhuleni, that's the most undeniable fact that we will be part of a coalition. And that's our type of politics, because of the people that we represent. We are going to be in, there's 12 hung municipalities in city of Cape Town, in Western Cape, and there's 4 or 5 in Johannesburg. We will definitely be part of them. We don't worry about it. You don't have these personal things of people like, I don't talk to this one, I don't talk to this one. You're not representing yourself and your feelings and your own beliefs. You represent the people's needs, not ideologies. Ideology doesn't buy food. Ideology doesn't do. The PA, we're willing to negotiate with anybody.
Those are the leaders of the Action SA and Patriotic Alliance and their positions on coalitions. I really wanted to talk about this issue of whether or not violence is automatically excluded during this period of hung municipalities, but I suspect we're not going to have time to get to that. But very interesting comments from both your leaders. Let me start with you, Lerato. So social justice is what drives Action SA. No mayors of grass cutting here. South Africans are probably going to look with interest as to whether or not Action SA is going to change its position at all, particularly on the back of the internal poll that you've also even conducted, and you're saying that that internal poll is very conclusive that as things stand, Action SA should not go into bed with the ANC. That position, will it change at all?
I think the reality is that we've punted this, we've spoken about this even during the campaign trail, that the people, before Action SA was formed, the people said whatever happens, the ANC is a non-negotiable in terms of us going forward. So that position I do not believe is going to change, because we went into this election having spoken about that, having said that we welcome discussions with every other organization in our country that has the best interest of the residents of every city at heart and not the interest of that political party. So we are not at risk of that changing at any point in time. Okay. However, the results of the poll will be publicized. We did say that one of our cardinal principles in going into coalitions is the idea of transparency. So we will be transparent. Okay. But we don't get the sense, we didn't get a sense even till to this point, that the people were changing their tune on us working with the ANC.
Let me quickly take advantage of this short window, 2 minutes that we have. In KZN, you have about 4 seats, specifically in eThekwini municipality. The issue of violence in KZN follows elections. Yeah. Should we assume that this period of hung municipalities, violence is also going to subside?
Yeah, you know, eThekwini has been a hotspot. Even when in our discussions we've been talking about how actually volatile it is there. We are hoping that, you know, things are going to die down and subside. However, the people who are involved in this violence know themselves. Definitely our people are not involved, and so we hope that the people who stoke these fires of violence will take heed and really just realize that we've lost one too many lives, particularly in that part of the country.
Mr. Kunene, less than a minute. Violence that accompanies elections. The elections are over, but the violence itself, should we rest assured that there won't be any more of it?
We can only pray that it does not happen. Because as you would know, in the ruling party and other parties, history has taught us that when the finalization of PR seats come, you still see that type of violence where people are removed, others are put in. So we can only pray for peace. So that is where we are. And as I said, Xoli, we will go into a coalition with any party. We have no darlings. We have no enemies. And we have met certain parties already where we have discussed. I can confirm now that we have met with unofficially with the Freedom Front Plus. We have met unofficially with the leader of Action SA. We have met officially with the African National Congress, a team that was led by the TG, Paul Mashatile. We had discussions. The president of PA is now on his way to Cape Town to meet with the Democratic Alliance and other parties that want to engage us. So we are talking to everyone. But who we will ultimately go with, will only announce towards the end of next week when we have finalized our discussions.
Kenny Kunene from the Patriotic Alliance, thank you very much for your time. And Lerato Ngobeni from Action SA, thank you for making the time to talk to us.